Welcome to today's class on managing skin irritation with your ostomy. Taking care of your skin is one of the most important things you can do to have a healthy ostomy, but a lot of ostomates, including myself, experience skin irritation because of leaks or allergies or infections. So today we'll talk about the best ways to protect your skin and troubleshoot the problems that you might have with your products. I'd like to take a quick moment to introduce who we are. We are Better Health, and we are a new type of medical provider. We take a holistic view of your healthcare journey. So that means we provide educational resources like these ostomy classes. We also have a coaching program that's a one-on-one situation where you can troubleshoot specific issues that you may be having with your ostomy, overcome some challenges. And we also have a team of product experts who can recommend the best products for your specific needs. All of that, and we are also an ostomy medical supply provider, so you can get your ostomy products from us, and we do the legwork for you. We bill your insurance, we talk to your doctor to get your prescription, and we get your supplies to you quickly. And who better to lead an ostomy class than someone who has an ostomy? My name is Siobhan, and I've had an ostomy for 6 years. I lead ostomy education here at Better Health, and I'm also one of the ostomy coaches. I know what it feels like to have a blowout, to have a leak, to have, or especially relevant to today's class, skin irritation. So let's dive in. Let's talk about skincare 101. Why do we need to pay attention to skincare? Well, it's important to have healthy skin around your stoma. The healthy skin helps your barrier adhere better, and it also helps mean fewer changes because you're having fewer leaks. Healthy skin also means one less thing to worry about when you're already managing all the other parts of your ostomy. One of the things to know about managing your skin is you want to avoid the skin irritation cycle. So what often happens with ostomy leaks, with skin irritation, is that they feed on each other. And if you have a leak, then you have skin irritation, and it can be harder to apply your ostomy products. And then your ostomy products don't work so well, so then you have more leaks and you have more skin irritation, and it kind of goes and cycles down, and it's really hard to manage and get a hold of once you've started that process. So that's why it's important to protect your skin. Well, what does healthy skin look like? How do I know I have healthy skin? The skin under your barrier should look like the rest of the skin on your abdomen. It should look intact. It should have good color. It should match the color. It should also be smooth. So it's very normal for all of us to have wrinkles, dips, and creases and scars. Those are okay, and we can manage those. We can find workarounds with our ostomy products to overcome those challenges. But the skin itself should be unbroken. Now, one of the biggest part of keeping skin healthy is choosing a skin barrier. And here's what you should know. Oftentimes people want to know, how do I order? Where do I find these barriers? Well, Better Health is a medical supply company. Call us, and we have a product team who is really great at making recommendations. You should know that you should choose a barrier that matches your lifestyle. So one thing to know is that barriers can be very flexible, and I have an example here. Very flexible barrier. In comparison, I'm kind of folding it. You imagine it on your skin. By comparison, I have a very rigid barrier that doesn't fold much. So you can see there's kind of a big difference in these two barriers. So one might be good if you need a lot of flexibility, meaning, you like to bend and twist. And then one can be good if you have a stoma that's having some issues and needs some extra support. The thing to know about barriers is that they aren't meant to last forever. Hopefully you're getting 3 to 5 days of wear out of your barrier. But the reason barriers break down is because output is acidic. So as an ostomy coach, a lot of people come to me with questions about leaks and irritation. One of the best things to know is that you want to apply barriers to clean and dry skin. Changing your barrier first thing in the morning is actually a great way to tackle this process, because it means that your stoma is likely to not be very active. You also want to set out your supplies prior to changing your barrier, because The more quickly you get it done, the more quickly you can avoid, or the better chance you have of avoiding unexpected spurts from your stoma. You also want to manage moisture. So right now it's summertime and it's very humid in a lot of places, and people are not only having environmental humidity, they're also sweating in response to the heat. So barriers are meant to absorb a certain amount of moisture, but sometimes they've absorbed all they're meant to take, and then they can loosen and pull away from the skin, and they aren't doing their job anymore. So one way to manage moisture is to sprinkle some stoma powder on your skin. And this is stoma powder. This is one example. All of the ostomy product manufacturers make their own version. You can use whatever version you like, and these are covered by insurance. So when you order your ostomy supplies from a place like Better Health, let them know that you want to include stoma powder in your order. One of the biggest mistakes that we see people make, and the one that can lead to a lot of complications, is that people's barriers are not cut to the correct size. So they should fit very snugly around your stoma without much room between the edge of the barrier and the stoma, because the closer the fit, the less likely output can slip in under there. If you need to measure your stoma, often your ostomy barriers will come with something called a stoma measuring card. So I have an example here, and what you do is you just place this card around your stoma, and you move it around to different circles to find which one is the closest fit for you. And there are little numbers on here, it's hard to see, but there are numbers written on here so you know the exact size of your stoma. You should know that stomas can and do change size, so if you're having a lot of leaks or skin irritation, because it could be because your stoma has changed size, you didn't notice, and so you need to adjust your barrier fit. There should be around 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters between your stoma and the barrier opening. So another thing that people don't know about is that their products work together to protect your skin. Now, oftentimes we're told about ostomy support products while we're in the hospital, but quite frankly, I remember from my own experience that it went in one ear and out the other, because who can learn when you're stressed from ostomy surgery, you're trying to heal, maybe you're on some strong pain medications. There's a lot to take in there, and it's easy to miss some of this information. So these products are also available through insurance and usually covered by insurance. So the first thing to know is about barrier sprays and barrier wipes. Barrier sprays and wipes put down a protective layer on the skin, meaning it's invisible, you can't tell it's there, but it's like painting a room. You have your clean, dry skin, you're applying a primer so that your barrier can stick, and also if there's output that does get on the skin, that barrier spray that you've laid down will protect it. Another thing to know about, and I just mentioned, are those ostomy powders, which help manage the excess moisture. Again, covered by insurance, order it from your ostomy supply manufacturer provider. Paste and barrier rings or sheets. I like to describe the purpose and the role of these as a flexible caulking. So imagine in your bathroom, you want to protect the area where the tile meets the edge of the tub. You don't want water to begin able to get in that little crack, because if the water gets back, it can cause water damage and rotting and all kinds of problems. So caulks and barrier rings, which do the same job, you can use either or, will help provide a flexible waterproof seal under your barrier. You put these around your stoma, and they will protect and help your barrier do its job. And then finally, as I mentioned, those ostomy barriers, it's just really important to find the right one. So you can order samples from the various ostomy manufacturers. And if you are using Better Health Supplies as your ostomy supply provider, you can request samples with your orders. Identifying skin issues. So how do you know if you have a problem? It's a really great question. Everyone has skin issues from time to time. So what's normal is occasional redness around the stoma. Sometimes we get little leaks. Occasional pustules. Sometimes we get little pimples under our barriers. It's very normal. If you notice them more than occasionally, something to pay attention to. Dry skin. Skin doesn't usually get too dry under the barrier, but it's fairly normal, especially if you've exposed skin that's been sitting under a barrier for a while. And then bleeding on the stoma during a barrier change, very normal. They will heal itself. If you see that bleeding is continuing to occur after you place your ostomy supply, ostomy pouch on, that's time to seek medical attention. What's not normal? Weeping. So if you have skin that's kind of broken up and it's kind of wet, there's moisture beating up on it, that's not normal. Large patches of irritation extending beyond the stoma, large clusters of pustules, denuded skin. So the word denuded means that the layers of skin have been stripped away. Macerated skin. Macerated comes from a word meaning to chew. So it looks like the skin has been kind of chewed up and like you would see a piece of chewing gum. And then pain. There could be itching, burning, bleeding. My own experience, it felt kind of like a sunburn. But also one thing to note is that if you have had a lot of surgeries or multiple surgeries on or around the same site, especially as they relate to irritable bowel disease or cancer, sometimes you can lose feeling in the nerves around your stoma. So it's also important to do like visual checks of your skin when you're changing. And then discoloration. If you see white skin, purple skin, blackening of the skin, that might mean that there's no blood supply to the stoma. It's a bad thing. It might be dying, so definitely seek medical attention if you find that to be the case. So before we go too much further, let's get all on the same page about what a leak is. It's probably more useful to describe a leak in terms of how big a problem it is and whether you should do something sooner or later. So it's normal to have maybe a little discoloration. Say you're putting on your stoma, it got a little active because you were putting on your ostomy barrier, and your stoma got a little active because you're pressing on the bowels and they're activating. So you might have a little bit of output that gets caught under the barrier. That's fine. The barrier can usually handle it and absorb it with no problem. If you see large patches of output under the barrier and the barrier is highly discolored, it's gone from a translucent color, which most barriers are before you use them, to like a whitish color or a darkish, they're less translucent, they're more opaque. That means that you either have a leak or the barrier is about to leak because it's absorbed all the moisture that it can absorb and it's going to stop working. So what can cause skin irritation? Well, of course, output touching skin can cause skin irritation because, as I mentioned, it's acidic. So, again, it's itchiness, irritation, pain, sunburn feeling, weepy, raw skin. The redness centers around the stoma. That's an important thing to note. And the skin barrier is not sticking to the skin. So things that you can be aware of, what to try if this is the case. Check your barrier fit. As I've described, it should be very close to the stoma, but not choking it off so that the stoma can continue to receive a blood supply. Change your skin barrier right away if you do see or notice some irritation. You want to get a fresh barrier on to limit that output that could potentially get on the skin. And use a barrier ring or paste around the base of your stoma. Some people ask if it's okay to get paste or barrier ring, pieces of the barrier ring on the stoma. Totally fine. The barrier rings, it looks kind of small, but in fact, they're meant to kind of stretch. You have to kind of warm them up with your fingers, and they're like silly putty. You can attach it right around the stoma directly onto the skin, or you can attach it to the barrier after you remove the backing on the barrier. Either way, it's your choice. People experiment and figure out the best ways that the products will work for them. So I advise that for you too. And then use a barrier sheet for larger areas. So a barrier sheet is the same thing as a barrier ring. It just comes in sheet form. So like a 4x4 pad or a 6x6 pad. This can lay down on larger areas of skin irritation, and then you place the barrier over it. Now, if you're using a pad that maybe extends a skin barrier sheet that extends beyond the edges of the barrier, you can add in some skin barrier strips, extender strips to help cover that, or some medical tape. But you don't want to leave that skin barrier sheet exposed because it'll stop doing its job as well. And then one of the ways that you can help heal your skin, you don't just want to you just don't keep putting on products, you can also want to make your skin get better, is to use the crusting method to heal skin. You need a skin barrier spray like I have here. You also need skin powder. Like I said, manufacturers of ostomy products each make their own version, and these products are really interchangeable. So you could use one. This is one product from Hollister. This is a product from Coloplast, and these two are the things that work together. And you'll look at the pictures, you'll notice that they're two different product lines as well. Just, let your medical supply provider like Better Health know. So the way you begin is you start with clean, dry skin, or as dry as you can get it if the skin is weeping. You apply a layer of barrier spray. Now the barrier spray is clear and dries smooth. You really even can't tell that it's on there, but it's there. Next, dust on a layer of over the sprayed area. So you don't want to quite let the barrier spray dry because you're going to be attaching the powder to it, and the powder is going to stick if the barrier spray is wet. Next, you want to dust off that powder that's a little bit of an excess, and then repeat 2 more times. So what you're doing is you're building up a crust, a protective sheet over the affected area that protects it. And then once you've built up this this protective crust, then you can just apply the barrier as normal. And then one thing to note is that skin wipes won't work with this method. And skin protection wipes come as either a spray or a wipe. And the wipe will just wipe off the extra powder that you put on. That's why you can't use it. You have to use the spray. Another top reason for skin irritation is an allergic reaction to products. And this is actually fairly common. The irritation, itchiness, and pain are still present under the skin barrier, but the redness may not be directly around the stoma. You might see some pustules and rash. So this is an example of an allergic reaction, and I like to show it because it shows that there's not really much redness around the stoma itself, but there is redness where the barrier is making contact with the skin on the outer edges. Now, this is actually my own skin allergic reaction. I'm okay with showing you. And the reason that I had this reaction is I'm allergic to this, what's called acrylic tape. This tape that you might find on a Band-Aid. It's kind of this woven material that's a little bit soft. And so all I did was switch to a barrier that doesn't have the tape attached to it. It's all what's called a hydrocolloid barrier. So there's no tape, but it's still sticky. Another thing to check for if you have if you suspect an allergic reaction to products is whether the product contains latex or alcohol as ingredients. Now, I've noticed in working with the Ostomy product catalog here at Better Health, researching online, that most ostomy products do not contain latex, and they usually are very good about putting it on the product packaging that it's latex free. Now, I have noticed that quite often ostomy products will contain alcohol. Sometimes the pastes contain alcohol. So if you might suspect an alcohol or allergic reaction to the alcohol in a product, don't worry, there are options. Usually it's called a sting-free product, a sting-free paste. Those do not contain alcohol. And then, if you are suspecting an allergic reaction, oftentimes your wound care nurse might be your best bet. A fungal infection, very similar to an allergic reaction, usually it's that itchiness under the barrier again, the weepy raw skin, whitish, soggy looking skin. There's a moisture buildup, and basically a fungal infection is a yeast infection on the skin around the barrier. You can imagine our barriers are sitting under our clothes. They are trapping all that moisture, especially in humid environments, or if you're somebody who's doing a lot of activity or you're sweating a lot. So what to try is to clean the area with a zinc-based shampoo. So that's a dandruff shampoo. One of the name brands is like Head and Shoulders. Ensure your skin is very clean and dry before applying treatment. One of the options that you can use is a hair dryer to help make sure that skin is very dry. And then you want to avoid using over-the-counter creams under the barrier. And the reason is because if it's not specially designed to work with ostomy barriers, the products will often have ingredients that are going to interfere with your barrier's adhesion. And then again, contact your wound care nurse. There's often some topical applications that you can use to help clear up that fungal infection. So we've come to the end of our skin irritation management class today. There's no quiz, but I like to give some conclusions and key takeaways that are simplified and easy to remember. So number one, ensure that your barrier matches your needs. Your barrier should fit closely to your stoma. It should be more flexible or more rigid depending on what kind of stoma you have, your body profile, whether your stoma sticks in or is an innie or an outie. Make sure you're following best practices for changing the barrier. So that means not only are you applying your barrier to clean, dry skin, you're looking at it, and you're looking at it in a mirror. Gentle soap and water are best. You don't need any special cleaning agent. And finally, seek treatment if your basic troubleshooting steps aren't working. You don't want to let skin irritation develop to such a point where your barriers don't stick at all. So it's important to avoid that and make sure that you're tracking how well your barriers are sticking and working for you. That's all for today. Thank you for joining Better Health's class on ostomy skincare. If you want to become a member of Better Health, just call us at the number or join us on our website at the links below. And we'll see you in our next ostomy class.